We're in week 2 of what do you really want? And as I was thinking about how we transition into David's sermon, it made me think, I've got a bad habit, and I have things that I do to cope when I'm having a bad day. When I'm depressed, when I'm frustrated, when I'm upset. And my bad habit, I binge eat on ice cream. So what is your bad habit, right? What's your guilty pleasure? And I think for me, there's these surface longings and there's these deep longings that we have. And as we talk about what do you really want, there's these deeper longings that sometimes go unmet for me in a day, right? And sometimes they've gone unmet for a long time. And one of the things that I do is I try to comfort with this comfort food, right? These shallow desires, thinking that if I get these shallow desires met, then maybe that will just help me cope a little bit with these deeper longings. And so this is what we're talking about this series, and what do you really want? And we invite you just as an opportunity to be real and open yourselves up to what are those deeper longings that you have? What are those surface longings that maybe you're using to cope when these deeper longings are unfulfilled? Because there is a human condition in all of us that God has wired each of us with deep longings and desires to be fulfilled and to be fulfilled in certain ways. So David's going to take it away and share more with our series.
Good, thank you, Tim. I'm super excited. Yeah, I love what Tim just said because I'm super excited. Can you hear me? Yes? But with this, we're fine with this. Yeah, this is what I love about it. Technology, right?
You're not on.
Check. No?
Nothing.
All right. I'm just going to go without it. Okay. Yeah.
Microphone.
Here we go. Here we go. Okay. Well, what I said is thank you. No, I'm just kidding. Super excited about the second part of this series. What do you really want? And today, just like I started last week, the most important thing about this series is not today, it's Sunday, the content, but what do you do with this content? At the end of today's teaching, I want to give you 3 questions, and I hope that you wrestle with that. I hope that you have somebody at work, somebody here in one of our groups, that you go and ask this question with someone. Maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's your partner, but I hope that you do something with what we're going to talk about today. It's not about just coming and sitting in rows. It's about just taking this away and wrestle with it. And I'm going to give you 3 questions at the end of this series that has to do with this. Now, I want to start and begin kind of how we began last week, asking you this question. What do you want? We're about to go into a season, right? An amazing season, Thanksgiving, Christmas. What do you really, really want? What are you looking for in that time? Is it a scary thought? Is it an excitement? A feeling? What do you really want? And last week we said that there's something tricky about this question. Because as we're trying to answer what we really want, behind all that, underneath that question, we said there's things that we want now, right? That want is something that we want to do what we want to do. That's a natural thing. That we want our way. That whatever that is, that whatever we want, that there's something that drives all of our wants. And the problem, we said, is that many times when we get what we want, we end up in places where we never wanted to be, or we never meant to be. Or when we get what we want, many times we miss what we really, really want. Or we miss what we want later in the future. When we just worry about what we want today. And as we're talking about this has the potential for you and me. If we worry on just the now, it has the potential to undermine our future hopes and dreams. And then we dig a little bit deeper into this. And we said this, that hiding in the shadows of what we want is what we value. That a more important question of what we want is figuring out what we truly value. That when you think about relationships, when you think about your job, what really matters is asking the question, why do I want to achieve that? What do I value most? And we're asking that question because nothing can guide us to this question. Media won't do it, relationships will do it. You have to take the time to wrestle and figure it out what you really, really want. For sake of our conversation, when I talk about values, is what's most important to you. Whatever is most important to you. For example, you may say, you know what, I want to enter a serious relationship. But a better question is to think about why. Why do you want to get into marriage, into a relationship? What is behind that question? What did you value about marriage? You want to get into a new job, or you want to make more money. That's great. I hope one day you're rich. But why? Why? What is behind those questions? And most of us, we hardly take the time to think about value. It's easy to think in terms of what we want and what we want right now. So this is where we ended last week. We said this, that this issue of wanting many times is a deeper issue, that we have to ask the question of value to surpass just what we want. So we end up with this statement: we will never get what we really want until we discover what we really, or what we truly value. And today I want to go a little bit deeper into this, because regardless if you are a Christian or not, or regardless if you've been a follower of Jesus for many years or not, this is important. You can agree with me that you want to have value and meaning in your life. So regardless if you consider yourself a Jesus follower or not, this is a very relevant topic. You want to get to the end of your life and figure out that you live with value, that what you did truly value. Now, for those of us who are followers of Jesus, we can take this a step farther, because we believe that God came into the world. He sent His Son. And the crazy thing about His Son Jesus is that constantly He pointed out to values instead of wants. Jesus constantly pointed out His disciples into what it was valuable, not just what they wanted, into what it was important, not just what they wanted, into what it was in front, beyond what it was in front of them. This is why constantly we read in the Gospels that Jesus healed the blind person or the lame, and He will say, your sins are forgiven. That was beyond what they were expecting. They were expecting physical health. But Jesus went beyond that. He went to what was valuable over what you and I constantly wrestle with, which is our wants. So as Christians, we believe that Jesus points out the way to what's more valuable. Now, having said all this, we can just sit down, read a good book, come up with good values, and then live happily ever after, right? Figure out what was valuable, we're good to go. But that is not the case. In fact, what I want to do with you today is I want to wrestle with once you figure out, we're going to go in this series to figure out what's most important to you. But before I give you that, I know you're going to wrestle with something. And that's what I want to touch bases today with you. You will wrestle with something. I want to give you a heads up of what to expect once you discover your values. Because here's the problem. Choosing what's valuable is not natural. Choosing what's valuable is not natural. The reason why it's hard for you to discover your value is not for lack of discipline. The reason why it's hard for you to discover your value is not for lack of information. This is much deeper than that. There is an internal conflict in what we all experience. There's an internal conflict between what comes natural and what we really value. And most people rarely take the time, take a break from the regular life to figure out what they truly value. But when they do, everything in their lives change. And I think that's what you want for your life. I mean, that's what I want for my life. But this is not an easy battle to win. In fact, there's a person that talked about this in the New Testament. And you and I know him as the Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul was a Pharisee. And he persecuted Christians. And you know that about his story. But maybe what you didn't know is that he was a good Pharisee. He kept the law. And in some of his letters, he talks about this issue that you and I are talking about today. And he writes many letters to the churches he planted, but then he writes a letter to the city of Romans. In this passage, if you have your Bibles, it's Romans chapter 7, verse 15. He addresses something that maybe if you don't agree with everything in the Bible, you'll agree with this first statement. And it's this. Romans chapter 7. I do not understand what I do. Right? You can't. You say, yeah, I agree with that Bible verse. I'm going to put it on top of my mirror. I do not understand what I do. Because we'll have that time in our lives where, we ask the question, why did I eat that? Why did I do that again? Why did I slip in? Why did I call her? Why did I call him? Why did I fall into the same things? Why did I buy that again? I do not understand what I do. Now, just think about that statement. Why don't you do what you want to do? I mean, what's wrong with me? Or what's wrong with you, right? Why don't we do what we want to do? There is a conflict between what you value, what you say is important, and your human nature. This is why this is a big deal. This is not just information. This is not just, I need to get more discipline. I need to memorize more verses. There's a deeper issue than that. And Paul's continuing. I do not understand what I do. For what I want to do, I do not do. But what I hate, I do. Paul has been very, very transparent with us. I know what I really, really want in life. And it seems that I just keep settling for what I want and not what I really want. And at the end of the day, I hate it. And if we can be honest, I don't know where you are today, but maybe there's something that you're wrestling with that you hate so much that you end up hating yourself. Maybe there's something you continue falling into. You say, I hate this about myself. And Paul will say, I get it. I get it. Verse 16. And if I do what I do not want to do, I agree that the law is good. Meaning, I know the law, Paul will say. In fact, he knew the law so well that later in his other letters he said, I'm very good at keeping it. I'm like the best at it. I'm a pretty goody person. I'm a good person. In Paul's time, he would be kind of like ridiculously good because he followed and he knew the law. And some of you, maybe you think, I don't have an addiction, I don't have a low self-esteem, so why would I need God? I don't think what I'm doing is that bad. And Paul will say, well, I was a nice person as well. And here's what he said, even when I'm trying to do good, as much as I commit myself to follow the law, which he understood very well, I can't pull it off. As hard as I tried, I knew what I really wanted. I just cannot do it. Now, you and I, we don't understand the law, but we do understand right and wrong. And for us, it would be very simple to say, well, I can commit myself to try to do the right thing. Be a good person, be a good citizen, have healthy relationships, take care of my body, have good character. We know what we want. But Paul will say, but we just can't do it. And he goes on. For I have the desire to do what is good. I know what I really want, right? But I cannot carry it out. For I do not do the good I want to do, but the evil I do not want to do, this I keep on doing. If we can say, finally, a Bible character I can relate to. Because we have that in our own lives. That area that we say, why can I stop doing that? What we naturally want is often in conflict with what we really, truly want. And that is about this valuing thing that we're talking about. Valuable is unnatural. Because when it comes to nature, you know what's natural? In nature, we don't find fairness. In nature, we don't find compassion. Nature is actually pretty dangerous. I was watching one of animal shows with my kids, and there's an island close to Brazil called Snake Island. And it's called Snake Island because every 10 feet you'll find a snake in that island. And they're very venomous snakes. You can only go there with a permit or if you're a scientist. They're not allowed you to go to that island. That is nature for you. That is, nature is beautiful from a distance. Nature, there's no grace, there's no generosity in nature. And the nature, or naturally, what we tend to do is, this is who we are. This is a part of us. We're human beings. Just going through human inclinations, for us, is what nature will look like. Human nature for you and I is cheating, lying, racism, adultery, me first, right? Revenge. As we look at everything that we're talking about, this is what is in us. And we can say these things will undermine our future. These can jeopardize our relationships, our careers. And Paul, who wrote this, hey, what I want to do, I do not do, also writes this down in Galatia, in a letter he sends to this church of Galatia. When you follow the desires, and then he adds a new word to this, what we're talking about. The desires of your sinful nature. And you can take that word out, sinful, because we discover that nature is dangerous, right? That we have this tendency. When you follow the desires of your sinful nature, meaning there is something fundamentally broken in you. And there's something fundamentally broken in me. In that idea, sometimes we resist it. But all we have to do to prove it is to answer to this question. Do you ever do what you don't want to do? And the answer is yes. We do things that we sometimes say, why did I react that way? And in the scriptures, especially the New Testament, give us lies, give us an insight into this idea. And Paul continues on. When you follow the desires of your sinful nature, the results are very clear. And he's about to give us a list of things that you're going to read those and you're going to say, yes, that's me. Or maybe you're going to say, that's her, or that's me, or that's somebody else. He goes on and he says, sexual immorality, impurity, lustful pleasure, idolatry, sorcery. And those two words were like idolatry. Idolatry, in a better term, is putting things before people. Idolatry will be, hey, don't use this, just use this because, this I take care of this one, don't walk on that, this is my baby, you can use the one that is barely working, go ahead and use that. That is idolatry. Sorcery, we think, I don't do witchcraft, I'm not into that. Sorcery is trying to control people. That's what wizards do. That's what magic is. Magic is trying to distract you out of something to control the outcome of your behavior. Right? Hostility. Quarreling. We went into quarreling last week. We broke that down. Jealousy. Jealousy is one of those things, we don't know where that comes from. We think about people that, for some reason, they didn't get the promotion, or maybe they're not doing well right now, and we're like, there's something inside of us that goes, yes. And we're like, what is that? Or maybe somebody, gained weight, and, that doesn't even have anything to do with us. And we're like, yes, but you're not reaching their goals. What is that? We have that in all of us. Outbursts of anger. I'll describe that. Selfish ambition. Dissension, division, envy, and drunkenness. We all are one relationship or two away from somebody who's dealing with that last one. And he's saying, I don't know why I keep doing this. And this is destroying my family, this is destroying my finances, my career, my dreams. But you know what? All of them these things have the potential to undermine our future, and that's what is natural. And these things ultimately can keep us away from what we really, truly want. This is why this is such a big deal. This is why this sermon is just not informational. It's greater than that. This is why this has nothing to do with just being more disciplined. Because there's a battle. And the scriptures say that battle starts internally. But there is a way to embrace valuable over natural. There's a way where you can think about what really matters to you, where those things that you said, these things I keep on doing, all of a sudden, you find the why behind those things. James, we started talking about James last week, and we'll be going through mainly, I'm grabbing that book in terms of what we're doing on Sunday. But James gives us a picture of this, what we're talking about. And I think he gives us also a better terminology of what's happening in that battle, in your life and in my life. He says this, but each person is tempted when they are dragged away. Can you say those two words with me? Drag away. See, we haven't been dragged away in a long time as adults, unless you went to a club and you got in a fight or something. I know. But we haven't been dragged away. But this is what he's saying. This is the picture of someone who's been trying to do the right thing. A person who's trying to respond the right way. Somebody who's trying to develop a new habit. Somebody who's trying to embrace value. What's really, really important. And they're dragged away in that battle. This is where they live, in this wrestling with this. This is when we have value over what's natural. And he continues, but each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. It means that they knew what they really, really wanted, but they gave in to their own desires. This is a person that maybe was dragged away by an opportunity, at work. They was dragged away by an old habit that came back, sneaked through the back door. And now their life was dragged away. Verse 15. Then, so it's not just a temptation, just when you're dragged away, then, after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. And sin, when it's full grown, is birth to death. You see, sin kills something. Sin can kill and undermine your potential. Sin kills what you truly want. And for those of us who are Christians, this is where we begin. Sin kills our relationship with our Heavenly Father. Sin leads us to that place where we say, why do I keep doing what I don't want to do and I hate it? Then James ends by saying this, don't be deceived. Brothers and sisters, do not be deceived. It's easily to get distracted. He knows how easily it is to be deceived and get distracted. He knows how easily it is to pursue what we want and not really what we really want. And it's almost like he's reaching from the past and saying, don't be deceived. Don't be deceived. Don't just settle for what you want. Wrestle with this and find out what you were created to be, who you were created to be. Don't trade pleasure for what you ultimately want. You see, when I talk about this, maybe you think, well, you're a little bit abstract, David. You know why? Because you know what I'm talking about. You do know what that wrestle is. You know what is that thing that you just cannot let go. And Paul says, I understand that. And what we're going to do is I told you from the very beginning, very few people slow down in life to figure out what that is and wrestle through it. And for me, I'm gonna give you my personal story. For me, that want, that area, I kept praying on Sunday that God take it away, and He never did. It was a moment that I had to open up with somebody, walk through a process, a healing, long process, in order for God to do something special with that area in my life. So if you're single today, remember, do not be deceived. In this culture that is not going to tell you otherwise, do not be deceived. If you're newlywed, do not be deceived. If you're wrestling with something of the things we talked about, do not be deceived. Do not trade valuable over natural. Don't trade ultimate for immediate. Last week, when we started this, when Jeff actually was leading us in a song, I talked to someone. And this person told me, I don't know who you were preparing that teaching, but I don't know what's valuable in my life. This person was Christian for many years. I don't want us to move as a community, as a family, without knowing what are we aiming for. What's truly valuable. We have this time. We're small that we can do this. Let's do it. Let's really wrestle and find out how God created us to be. And let's seek that person of Jesus for restoration in whatever area that you're wrestling with. Because Jesus came not to kill your fun. Not to say, well, if I'm a Christian, I cannot have fun anymore. No. Jesus came to represent what it was valuable. He was where we can find meaning in something that is greater than this life. And when I talk about these things, if you're close to me, I'm not immune to this. This is not, hey, David had figured some things out, and not at all. As Jim says, this is something that I every day have to be careful to not be dragged away. But as many of you know, if you're close to me, I believe this is a battle worth fighting for. It is worth it to fix our eyes on something that goes beyond what we want in the here and in the now. And when you find that, your family will have purpose. Your relationship with Christ will have purpose, will have meaning. And you will not know if you're missing in life or hitting the target, hitting the goal. So, I want to leave you with 3 questions. And again, I hope you truly, truly wrestle with this with someone. The first one is, you probably already know, what do you really want? The second one is, what keeps dragging you away? Are you willing to talk about this? And if you don't want to talk to anyone in here, talk with God. It's between you and you. And say, this is an area, God, where I feel continually you've been dragged away. And the third question, how long do I plan to let what I naturally want drag me away from what I really, really want? Another season, another year, another marriage. Let's wrestle together with these questions. Because we believe in a God that is all powerful, that wants to restore that area for your life. Let's pray together. Father, in topics like this, it's so easy, Lord, to just talk about from a point of view of not digging into what you're dealing with. So easy to look into, yeah, maybe there's this big issue, but I don't want to give it away. But Lord, we know you're here, and for some of us, this This is a time that we can just confess to you. That maybe for the first time we acknowledge there is something broken in me. Lord, would you address that brokenness in each one of our hearts? Would you soften hearts? Would you give courage for those of us who've dealt with something for years and years and years and we just think it's normal? Lord, you came and lived and died for us. So that we may think in terms of what's greater, what's more valuable. You came and lived in such a way that you just not only show us what we want, Lord, but what we truly needed. As you continue praying, maybe you've been coming to this church and you have never actually asked God to be the Savior of your life. And part of what we do here is we don't believe faith goes from 0 to 60, but in teachings like this, maybe you do recognize there is something broken and I need a Savior. And this is between you and you. This is between you and God. And I'm going to make a prayer, and it's not the words that are magical, it's the condition of your heart. And know that this is a journey. And for some of you, it's just taking a step to just follow Jesus, not because you understand everything, but because you're willing to surrender your life to Him. So as you can just pray, Father, thank you for dying on the cross for my sin. For that thing that it was natural. For that thing that was broken from the very beginning. Thank you for coming and being the restitution of that. And thank you for showing us that life doesn't end there. After 3 days you rose from the grave. I give you my life. In Jesus' name. Amen. We're a church about conversation, so if you made that prayer, please let us know. Let anyone know you're part of our church family. And we'd love to walk that journey with you.